Shippensburg Area School District Committee of the Whole. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. August.
Thank you, Ms. Eberly. Tonight for Committee of the Whole, we have one presentation, and I will turn it over to Mrs. DeLong.
Hi, everyone. Is it okay if I just sit here? Yeah, okay. So I have the pleasure of talking to you tonight a little bit about our school wellness policy, which is policy 246. You'll see that it is on the agenda for discussion tonight. So our school wellness policy, policy 246, requires a review every 3 years. So we are in the third year of we're in the cycle to review our policy and its implementation throughout the district. So the last policy review was in 2021, and it took us through the end of 2024. So we have started with our policy review again this year, and it'll take us into the end of 2028. So to just give you a little background, so in February of last year, our HR director, Nicole Weber, sent a wellness survey district-wide to all staff through our Capital Blue program to collect some feedback about any interest in employee wellness programming here at the district. And then at the end of the survey was an invitation to participate on a district wellness team. So we had a few takers, and we had our first meeting of the reformed wellness committee back on April 22nd of 2024. And at that meeting, we reestablished our committee, we discussed some goals for the committee, and we set up our plan to redo the policy review of policy 246. And then we also started to work together to create a menu of wellness activities for the district staff, which actually had taken place back on June 3rd. So if you remember last year, we had that snow day that was added on to the end of the year, and we decided that the wellness committee was going to offer a half day of wellness activities to the staff. So that half day of activities was well received, and the committee again surveyed the staff to collect additional feedback about further interests in employee wellness programming. At that same time, the district was also awarded a Live Healthy grant, if you remember, of $2,500 from the Capital Blue Cross again, and we used that money to purchase outdoor items for middle school students to use at lunch. So it was a bunch of equipment, for them to use when they were outdoors. So big thanks to the Sue Fink and the Greyhound Foundation for helping us to acquire that grant. Then the committee met again in October of 2024, and we created a mission statement and adopted the name of our group, which now we're calling ourselves the Healthy Hounds. So here is our mission statement. So we are a peer group of dedicated employees committed to educating and promoting healthy, happy, and safe lifestyles for our Shippensburg community. And our mission is to promote and model a healthy lifestyle in our schools through the creation of policy, the offering of events, the teaching of nutrition, the promotion of physical, mental, and emotional wellness, and the sharing of information that leads to a positive well-being for our community. And so we were very clear to say the entire community, because we wanted to be, aligned with our school wellness policy, which does include the entire community. And then we also had some community involvement in our wellness policy review committee. So we're really trying to make a concerted effort to do that outreach as well into the community. So then we also created our own email address, so you can email the Healthy Hounds at healthyhounds@shippensburg.k12.pa.us if you ever want to reach out to us about anything. And we also created a space on the district website that's related specific to wellness. So if you go under the district tab and scroll all the way to the bottom, you can hit the wellness tab and you can see the assessments from 2021 to 2024, and then shortly I will be uploading this newest information from for 2025 to 2028. So we decided to launch our new group to the district by offering a winter wellness challenge in January. So we created a wellness bingo that encouraged our staff to participate in making healthy choices in exercise, eating, and mental well-being. And I'm excited to say that we had 83 total participants who participated in the wellness bingo. And so on Friday, their names will be entered into a drawing to win prizes, such as we have gift cards. We have a 3-month Planet Fitness membership that comes with a swag bag and all kinds of like fancy stuff. And we are raffling off a free personal day. So we're really excited for those 83 participants to have the chance at winning one of those fabulous prizes. And then our group also had the important task of reviewing our school wellness policy, which is policy 246. Again, that I said is on the agenda for this evening. So the policy requires that the district form a committee and then use a tool to review the policy. So we convened our meeting, which was comprised of administrators, school board members, PE teachers, school nurses, parents, students, and community members. So we met on January 21st, and we used the PDE created tool to review our wellness policy. And then we took the results of the tool and made some goals for ourselves, for the district, towards implementation, improving implementation of our wellness policy. So you'll see that the wellness policy and the triennial assessment is divided into 7 different categories. So they are what you can see there: public involvement, notification, and assessment. That's what I like to call like the fine print of the policy, like who's in charge of what and what are they doing. Nutrition education, nutrition promotion, physical activity, physical education, other school-based wellness activities, and then finally the nutritional guidelines for all foods and beverages at school. So what we did is we reviewed each one of those 7 categories in the policy, and then we created goals for each one of those areas to make sure that we are moving towards full implementation of our wellness policy. So here are the goals that we set for ourselves for this next 3-year cycle of the implementation of our wellness policy. In the first category of public involvement, notification, and assessment, we made a goal for ourselves to provide more communication to families about health, wellness, and nutrition through announcements, newsletters, and the district website. For nutrition education, we set a goal for ourselves to provide training for all staff about the school wellness policy, including ways to incorporate health and nutrition into other areas of curriculum. Additionally, the district will share a list of available healthy snack options to buildings that would be from Chartwell's, which is our nutrition or our food service provider. And then we have 3 more goals here. In the domain of physical activity, the district will work towards contributing to the effort to provide students daily opportunities to accumulate at least 60 minutes of age-appropriate physical activity daily, as recommended by the CDC. In other wellness-based activities, the Food Services will create a student advisory committee to gather insights on the likes and dislikes of various food offerings. And then in the final category of all food and beverages, the district will communicate with district booster clubs and PTOs to educate them on the federal nutrition guidelines and to promote some healthier options for concessions and fundraisers. So these are all goals that are directly related to the policy and the review that we did with our assessment tool. So as you can see, we kind of have a theme here too of both communication and education. So we want to communicate more about the good things that we're doing with our school wellness policy, and then also educate everyone involved to make sure that we're all aware of our policy, that we're implementing it with fidelity, and that we're doing all that we can to share out with the community. So our Healthy Hounds Committee will meet again this Friday during the unconference to create action steps for our goals. And then we also need to think about our next employee wellness activity. So I just want to reiterate that the Healthy Hounds team is not exclusive. So anyone who's interested in wellness for the district or in the community is welcome to join us. Additionally, the larger district wellness committee, so the group that met to review the policy, will meet again before the end of the year to review our goals and keep track of how we're doing. So we want to make sure that we're tracking ourselves towards meeting all of our goals. And then finally, I would just say that all of this information will be posted on the district website and will be available to the community. Any questions for me?
I have one.
Yes.
I have one. Can you hear me?
I sure can.
This is strictly food and physical.
Yes, so it's nutrition and nutrition education, physical education, and physical activity, and then all of the things related to the food services.
So, do we have a mental health policy like this?
Well, I mean,
Getting the
not
community-
specifically.
Getting the community involved, and I would assume mental health would be part of.
Yeah, this is more the mental health. I mean, mental health is obviously in wellness, but it's not specified in this particular policy.
So we have a separate one from this. I know I'm putting you on your spot. I mean,
Yeah,
you get back to me.
I don't think there is one specific policy that speaks just to mental health. I mean, there are other policies that kind of have things implemented, but there's not one just specific.
There's not a standalone plan.
Yeah.
Like there's
So-
pieces in each building at each level.
Where does bullying fall in at?
We do have a
There's a
specific
bullying
policy on bullying and cyberbullying.
That's not including the community teacher, that someone teaches that? Or that?
There are requirements to bring that to the teaching of it and reviewing of it on an annual basis.
So that's often
We did
done through
do
our
that.
PBIS,
What's that?
positive behavior intervention supports at each level. They talk about kids getting along, how to get along with one another. And, at the lower elementaries, that's more of a focus as well.
I would not just. I know Gemini's couple has been asking about the bullying policy for years, and I hear things, but I don't see nothing. But here I see this. Can somebody tell me something about what we do and what we say and how often we do it and how often we say it about bullying?
Yeah, I can.
I read the policy. I know the policy, but it's a bunch of words to me. Can somebody be more specific, please?
Sure.
I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm sorry about that. It's just something that's.
Do you want me to pull something together for you?
Would you please?
I'd be happy to.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Any other questions?
So I guess I had a couple, maybe just statements regarding, health, nutrition, chart wells, and some of the options provided at the cafeteria level. A lot of our foods served are processed. I know at the high school level, the selling of the energy drinks with the negative impact on behaviors, sleep disruptions, unhealthy habits. Caffeine's severely addictive. Also, energy drinks kind of contradict the efforts of the healthy lifestyle that we're trying to promote. Also on the agenda is a discussion for changing start times, which also energy drinks, they're going to stay awake longer. So can we get rid of the energy drinks at the high school?
So I absolutely understand and agree where you're coming from. It's bad optics to be selling those. I will say that I had a conversation with Dawn Smith on this earlier last week, in that the drinks that we sell meet the standards, as crazy as that sounds. So they are permitted technically under the school lunch program. I found that to be a little incredulous myself, but she and I had a discussion about getting rid of those because it's just not a good look.
So we will be getting rid of those?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, we have to work through it with Dawn, but getting rid of them is not out of the question.
I know you put money on your kid's account and you assume they're going to make the right choices, but there it is, and you're just, why not?
As a high school principal, I moved to get those out of the cafeteria at my building, because I had similar concerns. So we'll get there.
Great.
right, thank you.
I'll just say, good work. Keep it up. I know both Dr. Goetz and I have been on the policy committee with you where this came up before, and he exercises more than I do, but I think we both and many people in this room and many people in the community understand how important exercise and nutrition are towards keeping kids and the community in general healthy. And so anything we can do to promote that in a very real way, I think this is a good step in the right direction. You and I have talked about we'd like to see more sweating during the school day, but this is good. I'm a big believer in the mental health impacts of physical fitness. So
Thank you.
that would sort of connect back to what Mr. Scott was talking about. So thanks.
Alrighty. So, at this time, concludes committee of the whole. If we want to go to,
So the board is going to break for executive session, and we will return back in time for the 8 o'clock planning and action meeting.
In my opinion, it's fine.
Can I have one, please?
Take up too much space.
She does.
Short, no, don't worry about it. That's all we hope. You see me move, get out.
And honestly, skiing here, it's been a couple. There used to be one that's. Yeah, there used to be one. No way. You're bored.
Vegan?
There's this. It's not like a real mountain. Right? So
Time to run to the-
Yes, make sure Mr. Scott gets the vegan one.
Thank you.
you're out there in the
Vegan.
You need, get that.
A vegan. Who made the vegan smoothie? Oh, I said vegan.
Mr. Scott, did you see,
Yes, I got this. Thank you very much.
But you know, for skiing, it's not.
What's that?
Waiting on
This was the audit that we got last.
It does. It tastes like.
Light reading. It's a stool put underneath a stool or something.
probably not a great decision.
Propel.
Thank you. That's very good.
It is very good.
Thank you.
That's good.
I'll have the regular. Thanks.
Regular.
Assume it has some milk in
You
it.
just call it contraction.
Listen up. A break ain't no vegetables.
Miss Levi's on vacation.
You might did go down to a football game?
He's down south, man.
Might have went to a football game. The World Super Bowl.
Hello and welcome to the Shippensburg Area School District Planning and Action Meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to let the community know that the board met in executive session regarding personnel and contractual matters. Mr. Barwin, roll call, please.
Mr. Bard,
Here.
Mr. Carey,
Here.
Mr. Kressler, Dr. Goetz, Dr. Lyman,
Here.
Mr. Noggle,
Here.
Mr. Scott,
Here.
Mr. Donovan,
Here.
Mrs. Eberly,
Here.
Mr. Blount.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we begin our deliberations this evening, let us once again be reminded of our duty to represent all of the children of this school community, regardless of age, sex, race, or creed, and regardless of need or ability. This meeting is being live streamed and uploaded to the district's YouTube channel. May we now have a moment of silence to reflect on our thoughts, plans, and actions on behalf of the students in the Shippensburg Area School District. And may we also remember Debbie Weaver, 1972, graduate of the Shippensburg Area High School. Mr. August, are there any changes to this evening's agenda?
Yes, ma'am. Item 4F6, it's a change of the effective date from February 13th, 2025 to February 21st, 2025. This is for an employee, Natasha Cover, who was currently a classroom assistant at the middle school. She's now able to remain in her position through the 21st, which would be a benefit to the district.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Move to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Bard, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Citizens' comments regarding agenda items. See that we do have a few. So please identify yourself by name and borough or township and indicate which item you are speaking about. The board will follow the procedures established in Policy 903, public comment in board meetings, which is accessible through the district's website. This time is designated for district residents and taxpayers to comment on the items listed for action or deliberation on tonight's agenda. All individuals wishing to comment this evening must have completed the document designated for request to comment and submitted the document to the board secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Each commenter will preface their comments by announcement of their name and, if applicable, group affiliation, and the public comment period is limited to no more than 30 minutes. Each statement made by the commenter will be limited to 3 minutes, and there will be a portion at the end for non-agenda items. First up, Mrs. Wolfinger.
I know you guys were hoping I'd be quiet again, but not this time. So Becky Wolfinger, Southampton Township, Franklin County. I would like to speak on 5C. I really would like to recommend that facilities meetings are not held monthly, but they remain biweekly. I believe having these meetings monthly could lead to potential delays and also lack of information flowing to the board about the current projects, such as upcoming change orders, progress and delays, and the timeline. Certainly this information can be sent in a weekly email to the board, as I am sure that it will be done, but this brings less transparency to the community as a whole about how we are progressing with the projects. On the same token, the new Fiscal Efficiency Committee, I feel the same way, and I hope this new committee gets the support of all 9 of you. Unfortunately, the budget is really only discussed 6 months of the year. The other 6 months, when it should be an ongoing conversation, the only time it is discussed is when money is being spent, and that is just a vote to say yes to another expense hitting the budget. As a taxpayer of the community, I have no problem with my taxes being raised to support our learners, but I do want to know that the board is actively working on a solution to determine whether things we are currently spending money on are beneficial and driving results for our students, and for the vulnerable members of our community, such as our senior citizens, that you are doing your due diligence to curtail any spending that is not necessary to meet the goals, the basic goals of what our our schools are meant to do. Flowing with the same thing, this is a perfect time, I feel, to bring this kind of back full circle, and that is the establishment of an ad hoc committee for mental health in our district. When I was still on the board, this is something that was discussed and unanimously agreed that needed to happen, but it has not happened yet. With the recent events in our community and surrounding areas of teenage suicide and attempted suicides, drug overdoses, bullying, and I can go on and on and on, unfortunately, to me, there is no greater conversation or duty that you each have right now than to help get our hands wrapped around this topic. We often ask why people are running to cyber charter, and I feel if you really want to retain students, this is the topic you as board members need to face head on. This is part of the reason people like me who just want to protect our students from the darkness that is happening, why people make a point to flock to cyber. Many in our community do not feel that this has been a priority topic in our community or in our school districts, and if we are going to face it, it has to be together. We cannot continue to allow this to not be a conversation. It is not a comfortable conversation. It is a very stigmatized conversation amongst adults, and it is a time-sensitive and time-intense conversation. But it is a conversation that this district needs to have to reach our revamping and to revamp and reach our most vulnerable students. Please consider adding this committee as you are revamping. We cannot allow uncomfortable conversations to prevent us from finding a solution for our students.
Thank you, Mrs. Wolfinger. Mrs. Lawrence.
Hello, my name is Sharon Lawrence. I'm an employee here at the high school, and I live in the borough on Orange Street. I'm here today to add some information and unfortunately add some questions to the discussion on changing the start time for next year. As a teacher, I do find it odd that the plan eliminates 30 minutes of instructional time at all the grade levels. But as the science department chair, my greater concern is that we're currently in the middle of implementing a new science standards, and the science standards are to be hands-on and experience-based. Right now, our biggest struggle in the K-3 grade band is a lack of time to be able to put these science experiments into place and an ability to carve out time for science in their day. This plan will compound this problem further unless we have some other discussions to figure out a solution. I'm also an AP teacher here at the high school. Currently, our AP courses are taught in the skinny. That means that they are half of a block. Our courses currently are 44 minutes. That does include the travel time between classes, so technically they probably fall more like 40 to 41 minutes long. To make up for this in the sciences, we schedule our courses right before or after flex, so that every other week we can have a block of time to have science experiments that might take longer than this time period. The consequence of cutting 30 minutes out of our day is that the block will have to shorten. With the shortening of our block, our AP classes will become approximately 32 minutes long. But with that, including the travel time, realistically, we're probably talking 28 to 30 minutes long for our AP classes. At the science level, I do not know yet what that will do to our course audits as to whether we'll actually be able to meet the minutes needed to get approval from the College Board. I am also the dual enrollment coordinator for the high school, and I have concerns about the impact of the start time on our ability to coordinate our class periods here at the high school with the university. Currently, we can accommodate 6 different start times with SU and still allow our students to have 3 blocks here at the high school of courses. With proposed time schedule changes, we'd be cutting that down to 3 times at the university that fit into our blocks. Unfortunately, one of those is also the 8 o'clock start time, which the university does not offer a huge number of courses at 8 o'clock for reasons that the university, I'm sure, has found. They're not particularly popular among their college kids. So with that, we're going to be effectively limiting the number of seats that are available to our dual enrollment students at SU, and we're going to be cutting down the number of courses that they're going to have to be able to choose from because they're going to have to fit into smaller slots. I have many other questions and concerns. I've got questions about career tech, planning time, co-op places, career field trips, our HCI program, what we use Flex for. Unfortunately, my questions are more than we can cover in my 3-minute time here, but they're simply questions. I'm willing to work on answers, but I just don't know that we can get those answers in the time period that you're giving us. I'd like to remind the board right now that with our current schedule, we are a blue ribbon school for AP test scores. We've been recognized for our career tech NOCTI scores. Other schools come to us to model their block schedules off of. And we currently, as a district, do have one of the highest rates of poverty in 2 counties and do have some of the top test scores in those same 2 counties with our current schedule. Thank you.
Mrs. Lawrence, one question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many dual enrollment students we have?
Total for the year or semester?
Either or.
Okay. I don't know the total for the year. But in the spring semester, I believe we have 92 kids in the spring. Fall is not as popular. Not as many kids can drive yet in their junior year. So in the fall, we usually run about 45 to 50 kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Blount.
Ooh, okay, my turn. So things going on at the high school. High school sports are just now coming to a close. Tonight, the girls' basketball team is taking on Milton Hershey here at the high school in a game that will determine if they make the district playoffs or not. Boys basketball just finished their season this past Saturday against Big Spring. Tomorrow, the boys and girls swimming wraps up their season with 2 away meets on the 14th and 15th. And I should know this, but I believe that wrestling has wrapped up for the boys and girls teams. When I checked Arbiter Live, there was a to be determined event, so I wasn't sure. But in other news, the Student Council is participating with the American Red Cross to hold 2 blood drives, and one of those is upcoming now. Each event will be held in the B Gym at Sashes from 8:30 to 2 p.m. The first is scheduled for February 24th, and is only for district staff and students age 16 and older. The second is scheduled for April 23rd and will be open to the public. The winter dance will be held on Saturday, February 15th from 7 to 10 p.m. in the high school gymnasium. Students have been working hard to advertise for it with many posters hung up throughout the hallways. Tickets are currently being sold for $5 during lunch and will continue to be sold through the 13th. The PBIS just had their big mid-year celebration held January 31st, and this was an enjoyable time. Many of the students here at Sashes participated in volleyball matches against the teachers. Luckily, there were no injuries, and the crowd had a good time. And now to the middle school. Gifted students in grades 4 through 6 designed and printed 3D pins for veterans for a contest. They wanted to share their creations with local veterans, which they did. Details of this can be found in a News Chronicle article. Sam Student Council is selling candygrams during lunch this week, and the proceeds go to Shippensburg Community Resource Coalition. They are also hosting a Candy Spirit Week with days like Sour Patch Kid Day, Wear Bright Colors. And yeah, that's all for me.
All right, thank you. So we have nothing to report for the Franklin County Career Center report. Moving on to the board committee reports, safety and security meeting updates.
Is that Levi?
I know, I can take it.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. So safety and security, we met January 29th. It was a pretty short meeting. We did want to move forward here at some point to get it on discussion for possibly having armed security at our sporting events and like dances, after school activities. Working out the details on that, and then hopefully we'll have it as a discussion item here at a future meeting. We discussed the bollards a little bit. We're going to be putting those out for rebid to hopefully get some more people interested in doing that, getting the bollards put up at all the other buildings in our district. And also we are looking at improving our security cameras at the middle school, basically filling in gaps with some of the new additions and things like that. That was pretty much it for what we discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Policy committee meeting, Mr. Carey.
Gosh, that would be me. We're winding down. What we have left? 4 we were going and reviewing. Of course, there are the updates come into the schedule. We did talk about how often to review, and I think you said, Mrs. Long, that you get updates on quarterly updates that would help to keep checking in on any new policies that need updated. I can see that was also noted you did do a review for a search for DEI to see if there was any material in any of the policies, and it didn't come up for that. But I think that's mostly it. Is there anything else you had?
Just the policies that are on for first read tonight.
Correct.
And we're holding one policy pending the decision about committees. So that would be 005. So we have it ready to go. I just need to, whatever happens tonight, I'll input the language and it'll be on for next time.
Thank you. Curriculum report, Dr. Donette.
Hello all. So our report for tonight, we're going to cover 3 things: the profile of a graduate work, curriculum writing work, and professional development that's been occurring. Next slide. With the profile of a graduate, we have been working with Shippensburg University with Dr. Wendy Kabusco, am I saying her name correctly? At the university to work with 3 different teams from the district. So we have our profile of a graduate curricular extension teachers coming. We also have representatives from 4th and 5th grade coming, and some social studies teachers from the middle school. And during that time, what we are doing is looking at how can we best incorporate the qualities from the profile of a graduate into our schools in meaningful ways for students to be able to learn how to be the communicator, the collaborator, the thinker, someone that exhibits responsibility and resilience. Next slide. With curriculum writing, we currently have 4th grade science, 5th grade science, and a few more art classes that are in the process of working on their curriculum. I will start to have those for you later this spring for your review. Next one. And with professional development, we are continuing with our LETTERS training. So LETTERS stands for Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. This has been an ongoing project where we are sending teachers to this LETTERS training, which helps teachers to better understand the science of reading so that they can be better English language arts teachers. The district's goal was to get every kindergarten through 5th grade teacher through this training. It's a 2-year total commitment for our teachers. At this point in time, we have all of our reading specialists, all of our special education teachers, our kindergarten, 1st grade teachers have all been trained in addition to our English language our ELD teachers. So next, the 2nd and 4th grade teachers are in their 1st year of the training this year. Next year, we hope to send our 3rd and 5th grade teachers. So in a few years, we will have all of our English language arts teachers trained in the science of reading, which is really exciting. The other thing that we've been doing is sending a team of science teachers to the IU for the STEEL Summer. We have a kindergarten teacher, a 5th grade teacher, a middle school teacher, and a high school teacher that are all going to these sessions. During these sessions, they are becoming more acquainted with phenomenon-based inquiry, which Mrs. Lawrence referenced, where students, instead of reading about science, are doing science. And so part of our time at the IU is to help us plan for a coherent curriculum K through 12, where we are creating better learning experiences for students surrounding the concepts of science. The other thing that we have coming up is our unconference. This is an annual event where we have teachers provide trainings to other teachers in addition to outside people coming into the school to train our teachers. This year we will have over 109 different sessions for teachers to choose from. Some of those sessions will include working with the IU. Some of the sessions are about educational technology. We do have support for the social emotional learning as well for teachers. We have people from the FBI coming, so it's a really robust schedule, and I will be happy to provide you all with copies of the content at some point in time. And then the next, I think that's all that I had for this. The next time I see you, I will be bringing with me Marcia Schmoos, our math coach, and she will be sharing the mid-year math and reading data with you all at the next board meeting. Any questions?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
You know I was coming. Last time we was here, I wasn't at the last board meeting. I had the flu. But before that, I asked about the grading, about that, and you said something about testing. We got testing scores, and we get this classroom grades. You say we can't measure. They're two different entities, right? Correct. Which one do we value as Shippensburg School District? The testing or the grading?
I would say we value both. They provide different information on our students. So the state testing is providing us a window of how we are faring compared to other districts, comparing to other areas of the state. That's important information for us to know so that we can adjust our curriculum to ensure we're meeting the state standards. The state level testing is also the test that tells us to what degree are we accomplishing our state standards. The grading is really between the teachers and the students. So it's giving you an insight into how students perform in a classroom setting. It's not it's not relative to other districts. Mr. August, did you want to jump in for that?
Yes, Fred. Two different tracks for sure. One would be what we would call a summative exam, which means how, after a year of instruction, how well did that student do on state standards. The grades that you get in a marking period are more formative. It tells us how you're doing in that course at any given moment. So two different tests, two different numbers. They're both important. They serve different functions. But I wouldn't say we value one. We want all of our kids to pass, and we want both of them is what I'd say they mostly have in common.
Well, I just know testing. When you do testing, a lot of students aren't good at testing. They freeze up or they can't put things together. I just have a problem judging people on tests. When we got teachers I would be more comfortable. I know I can't do nothing about it, just my opinion, but I would be more comfortable with a teacher relating, our goal is relating on the teacher teaches the student, and rather than teacher teaching the test.
I think all of our teachers are highly committed to ensuring our students are learning and are able to demonstrate their learning, and that will happen in a variety of different types of assessments. Some of the classroom assessments might be a test, sometimes it's a project, sometimes it's a paper, and our teachers work hard to ensure that students have a variety of ways to demonstrate their learning.
And Fred, I would just jump in again to say both are the grades that are coming out of our classrooms. That curriculum is based on state standards. The standardized tests are also based on those standards in math, science, and reading, English. So there's an overlap in those courses for sure. They're both ground in the state standards that we're obligated to teach.
I understand. I just have trouble with state standards. State standards, that's Philadelphia, Cumberland Valley, all these big schools and then the little schools, but you say we're separate. It's a state standard. So every school district, like Shippensburg, are all being held to that's their standard for all of us. So Cumberland Valley won't affect us. Mechanicsburg won't affect us. No one else. Is that correct?
I'm trying to understand your question. If you're asking, are we all looking at the same, like every school district in the state is to deliver the same standards?
Yes.
Yes, that is true. If you're asking, are we being judged relative to other districts? I think only if somebody is looking to say, how do we do? It gives them a data point, but it's not that anybody is penalizing us for how we do compared to another district. It's for our learning purposes as a district and as an organization to help us improve.
But that's where you got your 54%. When you showed us that time is 54% of the thing, that's where you got it from, correct?
Yes.
So it's 54% of the state average. That's where we're at. Not Shippensburg average, but the state average.
Yep. Depending on
So
which.
there is our proficiency number, Fred, and then there's what's the average for everybody, all the other schools, including us.
What is ours? What is our proficiency? Not the 54?
Well, it varies by grade level and subject, Fred. I mean,
We can go back through that data
Right.
and look at it. And I would always sit down with you and look at all that data anytime you'd like, Mr.
Not a big
Scott.
data person. But the bottom line, I know I'm a bottom line man in myself. If you tell me we 54, that as Dr. Goat says, is concerned. I would like to know when will we get to 75 or 70? Do you know? Can you give me just an estimate? Is that a possibility or not?
It's always a possibility. It depends on how we are. It's a complex issue that would depend on how we're resourced. So there are different things we can do that improve test scores. For example, lowering the class size is known to improve test scores. But to do that, we need to hire teachers. We can review our curriculum and adjust. That can help support better test scores, and we do that on a continuous basis. There's things like that, training our teachers, like this letters training, that can help produce better test scores. So we're trying to pull lots of levers along the way to increase those test scores.
Okay, and when do you have any idea how many years out before we'll know whether Portrait or Graduate worked or not?
I would argue it already is working. We have students that are able to talk about what they have learned in terms of being able to demonstrate that they're resilient. They have projects that they can show you their work. So we're already making huge strides in that. When you're saying, is it a success? I think it's already a success, and you'll see more fruit as more students go through the Shippensburg experience.
That's what I'm saying.
Every year we add on to it.
Is it 3 years from now that we'll have that fruit?
Well, it
5
would
years from now?
depend. Some of the students who are starting as kindergartners, they're not going to complete it in 3 years. The students who are currently ninth graders, they might have missed some of that content in their early years. So it will take time for all of those efforts to get students through the Shippensburg experience.
so Fred, I would also caution things like creativity aren't measured on a standardized test. Things like collaboration aren't measured on a standardized test. So responsibility not measured on a standardized test. So the portrait of a grad is really about some skills that are difficult to measure. Things like critical thinking, communication certainly overlap with standardized testing, but it's not a direct line of the things on the profile, necessarily pulling the lever to, get us to 90% on a state test, because they're kind of two different, they have two different goals.
I guess I'm starting to understand, but I still have, I like to see when the kids are graduating, you can tell me 70% of these kids are come through Portrait to graduate, and that assisted them in their graduation. So, but now I'll be long gone because I got to wait the third graders get here. So, okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Other questions? Thank you all.
Thank you. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Enrollment report, cyber charter numbers, 259, Keola numbers, 245, elementary total, 1,171, fourth and fifth grade intermediate numbers, 552, secondary middle school numbers, 854, and our high school numbers are 1,106 with 19 at placements for a grand total of 3,702. So kind of the headline there is, we have crossed that 3,700 threshold that we always seem to hover around. Donation report from Jill Hudock, 2 tickets to the Lure Center for the Simon and Garfunkel story to be given to a teacher and a student, approximate value of $120. Monetary donations were received in memory of Frank Kirsch, retired teacher and coach in the Shippensburg Area School District, for use by the high school athletic department. Donation by Joanne Coy, $25, M.K. Heller for $50, and Elizabeth Laird for $25. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Item 4A, approval of minutes. Recommend approval of the minutes as presented and attached from the January 27th, 2025 board meeting. 4B, finance. They recommend the approval of the bills of payments, the financial reports, tax reports, budget reports, and all are attached. 4C, the SAMS field trip. A group of 8 students from SAMS request permission to travel to the IU-13 building in Lancaster, PA to participate in a reading contest on February 28th, 2025. They will leave school around 7 a.m. and return at 2:30. All of the students are in advanced literature group. 4D, the revised 24-25 school calendar. The administration recommends approval of the following changes to the year's academic calendar due to recent snow days. End of the first semester was moved to January 22nd. March 17th is now a school day for staff and students, and the last day of school for students is now June 4th. The in-service for staff was moved from March 17th to June 5th. 4E is the 25-26 senior high school program of studies. 4F is personnel, professional, and support staff, which includes retirements, tenures, resignations, substitute extensions, transfers, and probationary completions. The first one that I want to note is the retirement of Miss Denise Simmers. I just want to wish Miss Simmers, congratulate Miss Simmers on her well-deserved retirement. As a middle school art teacher, she inspired creativity and left a lasting impact on all of us, and thank Ms. Simmers for her nurturing our love for the arts. And she was my middle school art teacher, and I still pop in anytime I'm at the middle school just to see her, so I just want to wish her the best on her retirement. Is there a motion to approve items 4A through 4F?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Carey, second.
Second by Mr. Scott.
Second by Mr. Scott. Discussion.
Yeah, real quick, just on 4D, with the last day getting pushed back to June 4th, what's the odds of that going further? Like, we have the...
So with I'm going to be on a call later with superintendents because our weather's not looking great for this week. So I wouldn't be shocked if we don't have to come back with a revised calendar.
And I think
Like, aren't we flexible with that now to where the days versus the hours?
We do have flexibility there. So we have some built-in days that we need to use. Once those are exhausted, I'll put a recommendation forward to how we mitigate those other days.
can I also just point out that this doesn't capture last week's snow day either, because that happened after this was already on the agenda.
Okay, that's all.
For 4F, are we still struggling to hire coaches? Is that
So I've not gotten anything specifically that we're having any more difficulty. I think it's always a challenge. Those are often long hours and little compensation. You kind of do it for other reasons.
Nicole's back there.
Mrs. Weber, did you want to talk a little bit about that, or say that again? I'm sorry.
All coaching positions are filled.
Oh,
okay?
She said all the coaching positions are filled.
Yeah. I just noticed that as a father of a girls basketball coach and a husband of a former or a current girls volleyball coach, I noticed a lot of these girls teams coaches are not staffed by women. I think it would be ideal if the district moved in a position to have women coaching women's sports, if that's possible. I know it's not always possible.
I
I think it's
legally we can just
we're just going to abide by the legal hiring process and not make any determinations on gender or any other characteristic that might sway it one way or the other.
Still think it's a good goal to have women coaching women's sports.
Don't disagree that women coaches are awesome.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Action agenda, item 5A, the district branding guide. The administration recommends the adoption of the attached district branding guide and updated logos. Is there a motion to approve item 5A?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Lyman, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Donovan. Discussion?
What are we doing?
So, Fred, we went through a process where we wanted to align and update our district branding. So, like the symbols, the logos that we use. So, as you can see on the screen there, that is on our agenda, but that's not our official logo. So, this branding guide gives directions on what symbols we should use. And we ultimately adopted what's already on the basketball court and the football field, or I'm sorry, the turf field. So it really was a way of trying to get some coherence around what symbols represent the district.
So we don't have one symbol. We're gonna have several.
So there's different kind of versions of it within the guide for different uses. So it gives us some flexibility where people can pick and choose, but just like Penn State has their own kind of symbol, like we'll have one that we should be able to identify.
I saw that and trying to go over and I got confused.
So there's different methods of it, and I should give a shout out to Kim Hess, who actually designed that symbol for another purpose, but has graciously agreed to allow the district to use it. So we put this out, and this isn't something that we need to be super aggressive on. Like we put this out, people don't have to throw away their their old stuff that may have different symbols, but over time we'll get everyone to really come to use that and have coherence in our sports teams and our academic endeavors as well.
So it won't cost us no more money.
No, sir.
Okay.
I just wanted to say I was super excited to see this pop up on the discussion agenda last meeting. Looking through the PDF, it looks tremendous. I really appreciate all this work, the high level of professionalism. It gives everybody a place to go. You're like, I don't know, making T-shirts for some club or whatever, and you got the stuff right there. You got the what's it called, vector point format like stuff available to do the good printing and whatever, and I love it. I mean, this and just kudos to all involved in making this happen. I think it's terrific.
So I would just second that. This makes us more consistent, more professional across the district. All the websites will have this on it. The uniforms, everything. We will look like a more professional, cohesive district.
Yeah, it will be some low-hanging fruit first as we
that's fine.
Evolve it
It'll be a
out.
process.
Right.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5B, the 23-24 local audited financial statements. Administration recommends approval of the attached 23-24 local audited financial statements. Is there a motion to approve item 5B?
Fred Scott, make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott, second
This is
by
Mr.
Mr. Carey. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 5C, the Board Committee Restructure Plan. Administration recommends approval of the attached Board Committee restructure. Adjustments to policy and the advertised meeting times will be required. The standing committees are Facilities and Safety at 6 p.m. prior to the first board meeting of the month. The Budget and Finance, 6 p.m. prior to the second board meeting of the month. The Franklin County Career Technical Center as currently scheduled, and the Fiscal Efficiency Committee needs board approval, and they would meet monthly. The special/ad hoc committees are negotiations, and the committee of the whole would include transportation, athletics, curriculum, outreach, and policy. Is there a motion to approve item 5C?
Fred Scott, make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Scott, second
Second.
by Mr. Donovan. Discussion?
I just had a couple of questions. So, the Budget and Finance, the second board meeting of the month, I assume that's not annual?
No,
It's just for the first, 6 months of the year or whatever till we pass the budget, or are we expecting it to be an annual?
so my understanding was that these would meet at the second board meeting of every month. We would have a budget meeting prior to that committee of the whole.
Throughout the whole year?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's a change.
We can always cancel meetings if we don't need them.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, does somebody want to speak to that? Like, why that change? Because I didn't pick up on that proposed change there. I mean, if this is an as needed sort of thing, like, great. Like, we don't need it. But we haven't had budget and finance meetings except January through June or May, really, in the past, I don't think. So
I think it
we
was
have enough to talk about in the fall.
I can't really speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the very early stages of the budget. Definitely data can be provided. I'd say July and August, possibly September, it would be very limited, just with like the audit going on and bills still being paid from the last fiscal year. We're kind of in limbo between years during that time frame.
Okay, but from your perspective, it feels good to have this extra sort of opportunity to inform the board of fiscal matters that are relevant to board decision making?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I'm not against it. There's definitely some data to provide in the months after September.
Okay.
And I'd also point out, Dr. Goetz, the Fiscal Efficiency Committee, which is running kind of concurrently, could also provide some updates from some of that work.
Sure. And then I guess my second question is, I mean, I'm on the facilities committee now, but I haven't been in the last year, and I just wanted to address Ms. Wolfinger's question or concern that maybe we need that to meet twice a month, which is what we have been doing. So I'm just, I guess, I don't know, reaching out to the folks who have experience on the facilities committee. Like, what's your perspective? Do you feel like we need to have this twice a month, or is that a as needed thing to it? We could just do it once a month, and then if we need a second meeting, then maybe we schedule that, or what are your thoughts, folks?
I'd like to see it on twice a month, just during construction. And it's like Curtis has documentations he brings in, you know, invoices and stuff like that. Some of the meetings are pretty quick, and we can cancel some that aren't that necessary, but I'd like to see it stay on the calendar for on Thursday nights at 6 instead of prior to that, because when we do run into a facilities meeting that has a little more information, we'll blow past an hour pretty quick.
Other thoughts on that?
For me, it's for, I don't like meetings anyway, but for me, it's twice is good doing what's going on, because you get a chance to discuss things like Kirk was saying. Then it's not having to wait a whole month to discuss it, and there's change orders and things like that go on. We need as a committee to advise the board. So I think twice a month.
So to be clear, though, that is not a committee of the whole,
No.
correct?
It's not.
No, that's not.
And it would take place not on Thursday nights anymore. It would be before this meeting at 6 o'clock.
Well, that's what I'm questioning. I prefer.
So if we do it, so if we do it twice a week or twice a month, then there would have to be a
on some
different
other-
time.
Yeah, it would have to be on some other day.
Because the way it reads right now is it would be Monday, first board meeting of the month, and if you do it twice a month, you'd have to find another night for the second meeting of the month.
It would probably be the week of the second board meeting.
So you said,
Right,
like, the
so,
fourth
like-
Thursday of the month?
Yeah, that'll work.
Dr. Goetz, you're the chair.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I
I
don't-
mean that Thursday's when the committee has been meeting, right?
Correct. It's worked in, and we initially did that intentionally because of having stuff prepared before meetings come. If we had to do any change orders or do certain things, that we could have that done. I don't like being constrained by, I mean, there's times we're done in 40 minutes, there's times it's an hour and a half if we have certain topics that need covered. And in fact, I think Curtis, you were just saying, yeah, you can look up at the speakers that's coming up here. Questions about shortening him if it was once a month. He has things pressing to get moved through, and the process is already long enough. I don't think he wants to see it go any more than 2 weeks, correct?
Okay. And are you saying, Mike, that you would rather the first meeting not be on Monday? Or because of that hour sort of limit to it?
You said about it had been on Thursdays. I'm fine with all of them being on Thursdays. At the very least, the every other one needs to be, I guess, still on a Thursday. So I'm flexible on that, but
I'm trying to think about how to make a motion here, but I don't know how formal we want this, but for the facilities committee, since this is it's not a committee of the whole, I feel like we could be a little bit more flexible with the time and date, and so if we need to change it at some point, we can change it.
So would it work to keep one of those meetings like prior to the board meeting, and then do a Thursday like after 2 weeks, and then you would be in a similar cycle?
But I think what you're saying, Dr. Coates, is that we just leave it as it is here, and then you as a committee chair can call for extra meetings. We don't need to change this
I guess what
formal
I'm
motion.
suggesting is we just take off the time thing, and then like that it doesn't have to. I don't know. Does the board need to approve the time that the committee is meeting? Like I feel like that's an extra level of
When we started putting times to committee meetings, because do you remember when some were at 4? Some were
No,
at
I agree. I mean, I think it's great practice to sort of have them like, scheduled and sort of normalized. But then, after 6 months or something, you might realize like, oh, we need to make a change. And I don't think that necessarily requires board action to make that change is what I'm saying. So having a kind of standard practice that's not necessarily formalized in a board vote. So I'm just wondering if there'd be any objection to saying facilities safety meeting, I don't know, as regularly scheduled or something like that, and then it gives some flexibility to changing it when needed. And we could try. I mean, I'm open to trying the Monday before the board meeting. And if it doesn't work, like an hour doesn't prove to be enough time, then maybe we need to move it to Thursdays or whatever, right?
You just don't want to come to the board for approval every time you want to change the meeting.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, for the committees where it's everybody together, I think that makes sense. Like all of us agree. But if this is just a committee of 3 people, or 4 or whatever, I think it's easier to not have it formalized unless I'm missing something and there's really a reason we should have it formalized.
Superintendent, didn't you say we can cancel if we didn't need it?
Correct. And I think the original impetus for this was to like shorten the number of meetings that board members had to go out. And since Monday is already a night you're out, using that time to roll through to take one other evening off the table or calendar for board members.
Once we get out of construction, absolutely.
We did this for construction purposes, mostly.
Well, would anyone be opposed to not having a strict, like, having that time on there?
Well, I think that they have to be strict because they have to be posted because of sunshine law and they have to be advertised.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, right, but we have been doing that in the past, and I don't think we've been outside of sunshine specifications or whatever.
What time would you want it if you didn't do 6?
No, this is fine. I'm just saying, like, sometimes we need 2 a month, sometimes we only need 1 a month. Like, this doesn't have that, right? Right, as this reads now, we're only having it once a month.
Right.
So I mean, if it's amended to have it twice a month, and then the chairman and administration can work with the committee to find the other date.
Just leave it as is.
What do you mean, Kurt? Like as it's written, or?
No, no. I mean the Thursday nights. I apologize.
Yeah.
If we leave it as is, and that's different than what we're voting on.
That's right.
I mean, could we just put a word in there like generally 6 p.m. prior to the board meeting?
If we don't think we have enough time.
How about we just say facilities and safety as advertised or whatever, like as scheduled and advertised, and it would be, we'd have it on the calendar as specific times, but then we can change it if needed.
So status quo of Thursdays. I mean, I don't know that we're.
I like the part about the first month, before the first one of the month.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too, right? And then the second meeting on Thursdays, but to Mike's point, if something comes up and these meetings need to last longer than an hour, and that continues to happen, then we're going to have to move it from that Monday anyway. So I don't want it to have to require board action for us to do that. It just seems.
Do you want to back it up to 5:30?
No.
No, I don't. I'm not saying that.
Okay.
No, I think it's just saying like take out the specific wording so that it has some flexibility.
Yeah. I mean, why not just not have this? Just say facilities and safety and not have a time on there. Just leave it blank. How about that? Is anyone opposed to that? We'll still advertise it. It will still be on the calendar. It will be regular.
And it will probably still be at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But if we need to make a change, we can make a change without having to take board action.
I don't think we take board action now, do we? We canceled, didn't we just cancel the facility? You canceled the facility the other night?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally what the to your point, Dr. Goetz, what the board is being asked to approve is a different structure, and moving some committees around. Yeah, so the specific times, I think the original thinking when working with board leadership was that facilities and budget were the ones that most board members are interested in. Those are the ones that are like do a lot of heavy lifting, and so having them set before the board meetings would allow others to come if they wanted to sit in on it or come late, but would give those two high priority committees a regular structure right before the formal board meeting.
Why can't you just post facilities meeting time to be posted?
Absolutely, sure.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
seems like there's a problem here.
We didn't have a set day one time for policy team meeting for the last year. We always scheduled it at our meeting we had for the next meeting. I mean, nobody cared as long as it got posted and scheduled.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend this at first point to just say number 1, facilities and safety, and just cross out the rest of it.
I second that.
So
That's my
take the first of the month out then?
right. I mean, it's my intention that we will have the meeting at that time. I just don't want to have to take board action to change it.
I'm missing the board action part. I don't know where to be.
Because we are literally voting on facilities and safety meeting will happen at 6 p.m. prior to the first board meeting of the month. Because we're voting on it, it has to happen.
It does?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
So if there's
Because we are voting at the
why
day and the time, which means it would be advertised, which means, of course, you could cancel it, but that means that we're literally setting the precedence of when this standing committee will meet.
all right.
Anyway, that's my motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, Kirk second.
So Dr. Goetz made a amendment to just facilities and safety. They'll meet.
Yeah.
And it was seconded by Mr. Noggle.
And so now we just vote on the amendment, right?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. 'Cause this is just a cluster.
We should do.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Carey,
So vote
Voting yes
approve,
on the
correct?
agenda.
I'll vote yes.
Mr. Kressler's absent. Dr. Goetz,
Yes.
Dr. Lyman,
Yes.
Mr. Noggle,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
No.
Mr. Bard,
Yes.
Mr. Donovan,
Yes.
Mrs. Eberly.
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no. Motion passes.
All right, so now we will vote on the whole 5C
Can I ask a
with the
question?
amendment.
Can I ask a question quickly, though?
Yes.
Sorry. So all of the committee of the whole meetings, those will be called as needed when we have,
There's our committee of the whole whenever,
right, so
it'll be the
if,
7 o'clock.
right. And so if there are policies that need to be adjusted or those will all be done here in front of everybody
Correct.
whenever as needed.
Yes.
That's okay. I mean, if there's something really pressing that needs like deep
Should we
committee
schedule a
work,
policy
we
meeting?
could schedule a meeting. Yeah.
I think that was the intent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like the nitty gritty, boring, policy wonky stuff, we could do.
I mean, the very exciting
Yeah.
policy.
And I'm
Yes.
with you here on the nerd policy stuff.
yep.
I'm not quite to Steph's level, but
Woo.
we could do some work in the committee and then bring it to the, but the intention is that it's discussed more openly in the committee of the whole.
Yes,
Rather than
yes.
just popping onto the agenda.
I would say so. And I think also, given where we are with our deep policy work, that we have overhauled every policy on, board docs at this point, for the most part. It should be maintenance work moving forward here, which happens on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
We seem to be really getting in the weeds there, but is that going to be the case then also for transportation, athletics, curriculum, and outreach?
Yes.
So those exist outside of the committee of the whole as well? Because I don't think this document says that. I think that's great that it should be that way. I think that's the way it should function, but I'm not sure this document is saying that that's what it's going to happen.
How is policy written? Is it still?
So policy 005, you just really have to say which committees exist. And then it just says that the board, can have ad hoc committees. And then, the things can be presented at the committee of the whole.
However, these ones are not listed as ad hocs anymore.
No, so they would, but they could still be listed as committees that would present at the committee of the whole.
So maybe we want to just scratch out the committee of the whole business and just put six committees listed under special ad hoc.
Could we just list them as committees with the expectation that they would be presented as the committee of the whole?
So
Because,
I didn't mean to make
as long
this
as the
happen.
structure, they're listed, but how we structure them and how we meet, could look different. Like they're still a committee, but how we meet would look a little different.
Yeah, that's not specified in policy, so I think you're still fine with that.
Yeah, okay.
So I think this was discussed at a meeting where I was not here, to be honest. Is the intention that we have more of the committee work being done here as a committee of the whole?
Yes, to eliminate more meetings out.
Eliminate more meetings.
Be efficient with our time.
So I think we can leave it as written, but the practice for each of these committees should be to keep as much of the work as possible in committee of the whole meetings on Monday nights rather than some other night in another building.
So I think the idea around some of these are there's not a whole lot of heavy lifting with some of these, the ones that are listed as committee of the whole now. So more so we would be able to just meet as a whole versus different committees meeting several times a week. So administration will be doing some of that heavy lift of some of the low-hanging fruit to just bring to the board, which it could take 20, 30 minutes of our time versus blocking off an hour of our day.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm understanding sort of what the intent of the policy was, and not having been at the meeting where this was discussed.
And the policy will be revamped after
right
this decision.
This vote will change our policy.
Correct.
So I just want to hear from other people if that was the intent of.
Well, that's how I understood it as well, and I'm okay with that goal. Like it feels good, and I hate to get legalistic here, but it's like if I'm a new board member and I read policy 005 about policies, and then I look at this document, I would not understand what this intention that we're talking about here would not be clear based on those reading those two documents. So I think if that's the intent. If the meta intention is for it to be quite clear what our practice is regarding committees, I don't think this does it. So I sort of think maybe we should just table this and then rework this document and bring it back next time.
Well, there's
so
also
that it's a little bit more clear.
Well, there's also the other question is who will serve on these committees, because you're combining facilities and safety. So you have 3 members on safety and you have 4 members on facilities. Now, a lot of those committees overlap with individuals. So who's going to serve on these committees, of the standing committee, especially the number 1 and on the number 4?
Well, it would be my understanding that as president, that's your discretion, right? You get to decide who serves on what committees. So, however you would want to decide that, you could decide it. But
So I get to upset. Ultimately, how we've structured committees is you give me your top preferences, and however, you can't put 7 people on one committee. So again, who is going to serve? So we'll have to iron that out. So are you proposing? Are you making a motion to table item 5C?
Is table the right thing to do? I just think it should be revised. And so I think we ought to, I guess, table and then have it be revised, or just vote it down with the understanding that it's going to be revised and brought back to be a little bit more clear.
We could also look at it in the policy committee and then have it come up as like a
policy committee is super good at getting in those weeds.
So, if the rest of the board is okay with that, we could take it. Sorry, I'm not the president, Mr. Carey. You're the president. I'm
chair.
Making more work
Give you
for
the authority to
You're the
speak.
chair. Okay. I just, maybe the policy committee brings, because this is, the professors are getting a little wonky here, but this does sort of speak to sort of this philosophical idea of what is the role of subcommittees in relationship to what is ultimately this board, which is the committee of the whole. And in my tenure as a board member, committees, I think when we first came on the board 7, 8 years ago, I don't think there were really any committees. And then we moved to committees, and now this is a move sort of to kind of an in-between kind of a thing. I think.
Hybrid.
Yeah, it's like a hybrid. So.
I think the document could be improved with a little bit of text to just sort of explain what's going on, right? And then and if this is included as maybe an amendment or an attachment to policy 005, so that anybody who's like, I don't understand this committee business, right? They can just look it up and they can it's all spelled out, right? So the public knows, anybody that's new on the board would understand. I don't know.
So.
We can table it till the next meeting and we meet.
Or we could just send it to the policy meeting.
Or we can table it until policy committee meets.
I'm sorry, till our next meeting, we can meet and discuss and bring it back.
Is there a meeting between this policy meet? Does it meet before the next?
We have a date
Yeah,
in March.
off the top of my head. It's February now. We just met last week, so I think we chose the 4th or the 5th.
So I believe it'll be
March
6
5th.
of one, half dozen the other. If we table it and we don't bring it off the table at the next meeting, then it's effectively dead.
But
Or
if
can
you
just-
if you give a timeline after the March 5th, then we would be good.
Yeah, if I could just make a motion to send this to the policy committee for revision. Can we just do that? It's not a table.
Yeah,
it's just to send it to the policy committee for revision.
Then we
All right,
can-
I'll make that motion. I move that we send this discussion or whatever, this document explaining the committee structure to the policy committee for revision.
Second.
All right, so Dr. Goetz made a motion to send this to policy committee for revision. It was seconded by Dr. Lyman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Oh.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Goetz,
Yes.
Dr. Lyman,
Yes.
Mr. Noggle,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
No.
Mr. Bard,
Yes.
Mr. Carey,
Yes.
Mr. Kressler's absent, Mr. Donovan,
No.
Mrs. Eberly.
Yes.
6 yes, 2 no. Motion passes.
Right. Discussion agenda, 6A, the field trip to Millersville University. Student Services request approval for a trip on March 28th to attend a play at Millersville University and to visit the Lancaster Science Factory. The transportation cost will be covered by Student Services, and students will pay for the factory costs of $11 each. All gifted students in grades 2 through 5, a total of 22 students will be going, and there will be 5 adults attending as well. 6B, the 25-26 calendar. A draft of the 25-26 calendar is attached for review and discussion. The calendar has 180 student days and 186 teacher days per the SAEA collective bargaining agreement. Administration recommends approval of the calendar.
I had something here real quick. Yes. I just want to say, whoever planned the calendar this year to put a 2-hour delay the day after the Super Bowl was brilliant. But not just that, there were so many of our 3 and 4 day weekends that are with holidays. It's a great calendar this year. I think it's one of the best calendars I've experienced as a parent in the district. So well done. I don't know if that was you, Mr. August, or some.
It was a definite team effort.
Yeah, so I love the calendar this year. I think you've done a good job with it.
Yeah, as a student, it's awesome. 2-hour delay after Super Bowl, so it's done.
And it's not just this morning. Like, I want to say we put a day before the President's Day, so it was a four-day weekend or something. I mean, there are a few of those that really made it makes the school year a little bit more manageable.
There was a rumor that the committee that makes the calendar put in that 2-hour delay, expecting one of us to see it and be like, "That's silly, we're not doing that," and it just sort of like slipped through. So I don't know. That's the rumor I heard. Yeah.
Go Birds.
And that Super Bowl was over at 8 o'clock.
6C, policies for first reading. The following policies are being presented for first read and discussion: 246, 308, and 823. 6D, the comprehensive plan for the 25 through the 28 school year. The superintendent recommends approval of the attached district comprehensive plan beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. 6E is the Employee Assistance Services Renewal. Administration is recommending approval of Exhibit Q between Work Partners and Shippensburg Area School District effective February 1st, 2025 for the renewal of Life Solution Services for employee-centric programs and services at an annual rate of $9,000. The interactive online tools are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and include the following services that you can look through.
Is that like an EAP? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay.
6F, the job description for the Timothy House Supervisor. Administration recommends approval of the attached job description for the Timothy House Supervisor position. Mr. August, can you explain this or add some context, please?
So this is a position that was approved by the board, which did not have a subsequent job description to it. This was years ago, so we're not throwing anyone under the bus now, but we are getting caught up on job descriptions. So this is a approval of these.
What is Timothy House?
So it's basically within the special ed department. It's an experience, a community experience, I believe.
So that's someone outside of the special ed department?
I'm not exactly who's in these positions currently. Nicole, can you talk a little bit about it?
I've been on 5 years. I never heard of Timothy House.
The Timothy House is literally a house close in town. We connect with one of the local churches. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what church. So we take our students off-site and go to the house, and they do life skills there. So they do that after hours. I guess the parents sign up, and then they take their students over there. So we have a director and assistant director over there that supervises the students. I also understand that they bring the students to like basketball games or football games or something like that, and take them out for dinner. So again, life skills support there.
There are employees.
Yes, yeah. They're in our special ed. They're our teaching staff and in our special ed staff as well. So we've had the positions for years. The job descriptions are just catching up to that.
Didn't know he had a job. Okay.
Who are currently in those roles, the supervisor and assistant supervisor.
Libby Staver is a supervisor, and assistant is Paula Patterson. So Libby is a teacher at the middle school, and Paula Patterson is a classroom assistant at intermediate school. So.
Thank you. And 6G is the Timothy House assistant supervisor position. 6H is the affiliation agreement with Frostburg State University for practicum and internship placement. 6I is the school start time adjustment. The administration recommends the approval of adjusted start times for elementary and secondary students to begin during the 25-26 school year as follows. The Shippensburg area high school start time would be 8:05. The middle school would start at 8:05. Nancy Grayson Elementary would begin at 9:15 a.m. James Byrd Elementary, 9:10 a.m. The Shippensburg Area Intermediate School would begin at 9:05 a.m. and Grace B. Loras would begin at 9:15 a.m. and a sample schedule is attached. Discussion on 6I.
I'll open the can of worms. So no, I really appreciated Miss Lawrence's comments. I tell my kids that one of my grandkids better be named Sharon because of everything that Miss Lawrence has done for our family. But do we have I think she brought up some valid concerns. Are those things that were on your radar, Mr. August?
I mean, they are. Some of the times that Mrs. Lawrence mentioned aren't exactly what we have on some model schedules. The high school and the middle school have produced some schedules that are rough drafts. We didn't dive completely deeply into them until we get an approval, but they were more proof of concepts. Could they work? I mean, there's going to be an adjustment for sure, but it's really just a trade-off of is it worth following the research on what start time says versus some 30 minutes of instruction time at the high school, particularly when we are way over what the state requires. It's not in the models. It's not 30 minutes at the elementaries. It varies between 1 minute and 16, and they have a little more flexibility. So definitely something that the district has charged me with exploring, and there are a ton of variables and a ton of constraints, but we put forth the schedule that we got the most feedback on, that we think satisfies enough of everyone's concerns, and gets us better than what we are. If approved, there will be some legwork that needs to be done to flesh them all out, and I would say we would continue to look to tweak them. It will require some changes, definitely at the high school, some different thinking, and but I'm confident that the very intelligent people there can figure it out and come up with a schedule that works.
What are the implications on transportation, like between logistics and financial implications?
I think working with Mr. Bybee on this, he was involved in it, and I think one of the maybe unsung benefits is that you can see the transition time is now standard 50 minutes, and where we may be able to get back time is if those runs can be more efficient. This is kind of the worst case scenario of what he thought, the furthest student we need to pick up, how long it takes them to get from their bus stop to their schools. With our growing population and some of our buses being already kind of filled, we were likely going to be looking at additional buses anyway. So I don't know that I can speak, precisely on what the impacts are, but Mr. Bybee felt that we could do this schedule
without getting additional buses. I know we were looking at possibly needing an additional bus anyways, but would this make us have to invest in more buses?
My understanding was that we could do it with what we had.
I mean, it's essentially just, it's pretty close to what we're doing now, just moved back a half hour, right?
Right. Where we might have some issues are with runs to the Career Tech Center. But again, there are other schools that get their kids there right around the same time.
The majority of our public teachers, whole 9 yards, we're pushing this, and the majority of these people don't want it. I mean, the constituents. I mean, I have gotten none. I came to the town hall. I've listened to emails. I've gotten texts. I've gotten all kinds of stuff, and nobody mentions that we're shortening the students' curriculum time. And why do we even have to compare to somebody else, other schools, and just try to line? We don't have to. Shippensburg is Shippensburg.
So, Mr. Narco, what I would say is I would remind everyone that this was a charge from the outreach committee for me to do the legwork on putting this together.
I know, Bill.
So, you know, I did that task and put a schedule that I think can work, that meets a lot of the needs of the students, doesn't change our collective bargaining agreements. We have to work within that. You know, partly many of the concerns that people talked about was, well, the day's going to go too long and we're going to have, you know, troubles in the evening. You know, so the difference in the dismissal time is 9 minutes for the secondary students and roughly anywhere from 1 to 16 minutes different. 24 minutes difference in dismissal times at the elementary school. So to answer your question, we got a lot of feedback on this until we arrived to where we are right now.
Just making a statement.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Blount, do you want to say something?
I mean, speaking to a lot of students, personally, I mean, I would be all for the start time, but there are a lot of students that have come up to me, and I mean, actually, I like this schedule too because it says it's only 9 minutes more of school. A lot of students are like, hey, I want to get out of here as quickly as possible. But, I mean, the difference between 2:30 and 2:39 is not that much. While looking at this, a lot of them were really concerned that it was going to go to like 3 o'clock or something. So I don't know. No.
As you know, I get around the community. I haven't, not a soul has come to me and said, Fred, I want that time changed. I haven't ran to a soul in the community, students or adults. I want how much input, you say the outreach committee, how much did the outreach committee reach into the community to come up with this estimation?
So we did 3 separate surveys, Fred, and we held a town hall where we took feedback from the community through that. You know, you may recall that, you know, there was discussion of a flip of the secondary, and so that was clear, you know, that wasn't definitely what the community was not interested in. So, I mean, what I would say, Fred, is this is what I was asked to do.
I'm not arguing. I don't know anything about that. I didn't hear.
Right.
No, you say outreach. I'm not disputing it because I don't know. I'm just running over the outreach committee made the determination. How much did they go out in the community to get their information? Or just a select few people on the outreach committee made this determination to put you in this position?
Yeah, I think it's good to ask the question. I'd also bring up that, you know, we're currently in negotiations with the association, and one of their major items is planning time, getting more planning time for teachers. You know, the thing that's unspoken is, you know, at each level, you know, at the secondary level, teachers are going to get 30 more minutes of planning time, and then at the elementary levels, there's also additional planning time in the morning because this teacher day is not changing, but we are shrinking the student day by a little bit. That allows for more planning time for teachers.
So representation from the senior high that you say affects most has come to you and said, we want this?
What's the question?
I mean, your representation from the high school teachers and the people that's going to affect said that they said this is what they want.
So the schedule, the survey went out with 3 possible schedules, and that didn't really show the benefits of the additional planning time. So the majority of teachers from the town hall were not in favor of changing anything.
Because they didn't have all the information.
Sorry, Fred?
Because they didn't have all, excuse me, I'm sorry. Because they didn't have all the information. You said there was three things that they.
Well, they were. You know, I worked with the association to try to hone this schedule down within all those constraints. So, you know, we did get feedback there. I would say that you're correct. You know, no one came and said, "Hey, Mr. August, you know, we need to make this change." You know, and the survey results from early suggested that a majority of teachers were not on board with a change. I think a lot of the focus was on the flip because that was the scariest one. But you know, that's why we landed on this one that is the least intrusive.
But we haven't gotten a survey from the teachers on this one. Solely this one thing.
No, we didn't do an additional survey, Fred.
So I want to say a few things about this. So this, you know, having some kind of schedule change has been on my radar from the very beginning, right? I've been on this board for 7 years. This is like when I was running for the school board for the first time, this was something I was absolutely interested in pursuing. And the reason has nothing to do with like my preferences or what I think is great, but the reason has to do with like the research that has emerged in the past couple of decades that demonstrates that when you start school later for secondary age kids, they perform better. And when you start elementary age kids earlier, they perform better. So here's the thing, like if you were to, you know, if I were to come to you and say like, hey, here's this thing that you can do that doesn't require investment in a single teacher or a building or anything, and it's going to improve academic outcomes. I mean, wouldn't we do that? Right? And that's what all the research is showing. But here's the thing. That's with a legit flip, right? With the elementary school kids starting earlier and the secondary kids starting later. And honestly, like, I mean, and I am so appreciative of all of the work that's been done at this whole process, and I recognize it's like a ton of work and like working through all these logistics and stuff. But honestly, I'm having a really hard time being excited about this, right? I mean, I think it sort of achieves the goal for our secondary students, but then in a way, like, I don't know, I kind of feel like we're pushing roundish pegs into round holes. Like it doesn't seem like a clean fix. And it's a compromise fix, but you know, as someone who teaches conflict resolution, I teach my students that compromises just mean that you didn't work hard enough to come to an agreement that, you know, actually creates value. And I'm just hesitant here. And I appreciate all the work and I appreciate all the feedback, but I really don't know, like at this point, like if I would support this. Like I think it looks better for our secondary age kids, but I don't think it looks better for the rest, and I'm concerned about the some of the changes to the schedule that might affect, like, you know, the amount of time, you know, amount of instructional time per day and stuff. And maybe some of that is I just don't quite understand it as much as I've tried to understand it. But I mean, I know change is hard. We naturally resist change. But man, like, all the evidence shows that when districts make this, you know, I mean, I don't pretend to understand like the logistics that districts have had to go through to make the schedule flip, and we have I don't know, maybe it's just harder for us because we have to use the same buses over, you know, to do 2 bus runs or something. And maybe other districts don't have that problem. I'm not sure. But it's like I don't know. I'm going in circles here, but like I think something needs to be done, and I'm just not sure that this is the right thing, and I'm hesitant to support it because once we do, things tend to have some inertia. Like they get kind of locked in and they stay that way. And I almost wonder if, it's worth, putting this back another year or something to come up with another solution. But I don't want to make administration do a bunch of work if we're just going to say no to it again. So I kind of feel like all the board members have to be on board with the science, like that it's worth following the evidence. And if we're not on board with that, then there's no point in having admin, do more work and trying to come up with another plan.
I have a quick question. How many school districts are operating on this complete flip already?
So there's one in the county. Mechanicsburg did a flip.
Okay.
And I think Tuscarora has a minor one. But they're kind of unique. I will point out that the entire state of California has mandated an 8:30 start for secondary students, and the entire state of Florida has done the same thing starting for the next school year. And our own legislature has had hearings about the benefits of a later start for secondary students.
I mean, I said this before, but if you were starting from scratch, and there's no one that would say like 7:25 is the time that our high school students should come to should start school. Like I if you're starting from scratch, like that just wouldn't be the proposal. So the only reason I think that to sort of commit to that is just that's the way it's always been, rather than it's the right thing. And I really want to see the right thing. I'm just not sure that this is the right thing. I could be convinced, maybe, but I just right now, I mean, and we've been dealing with this for a couple of months, but I can't look at that and think, yes, that's right.
So, I mean, I think it's important to have these discussions in public, and I'm going to say what I think in public because I think that's what our job is. This is like the American Association of Pediatrics, the American Medical Association, the CDC, all the experts on sleep. This is what they recommend is an 8:30 start time for secondary students. If you go to your pediatrician, that's where your pediatrician will say for your kids. This is what medical science says we should be doing for our children is an 8:30 start time for middle schoolers and high schoolers. And similar to Dr. Goetz, this is something I've been interested in since getting on the board in 2017. I could live with this because I don't think there's a good justification for our current start times other than it's what we've always done. So yes, it would be difficult to make an adjustment, but if this is going to make my kids mentally better and more healthy and potentially improve our performance of our students in our schools, and it doesn't cost any money, why not? It's not an ideal solution, but it's at least a step in the right direction. I think I'm a little more comfortable with compromise than Dr. Goetz is, but.
And I would just add, if you look at the schools that are on start late, what is that?
Schoolstartlater.com.
Schoolstartlater.com. They have a list of like all the schools that have made this change in Pennsylvania. Most of those have gone somewhere between like 7:55 to like 8:15. Only a couple have gotten to that 8:30, which is a struggle for a lot of districts.
And I was doing some research this morning. There is a bill. There has been a bill proposed in the Pennsylvania State Legislature as well, but I think it never made it out of committee. So
I would be doubtful that Pennsylvania is going to put a mandate in.
But I did find there's a national organization that's lobbying for these kinds of things to happen because it's better for our kids.
To that point, New York, New Jersey, Maryland are also, I think, a little further ahead in the discussions than Pennsylvania is towards a mandate.
So on these times you got here, this is shortening education time during the day also?
So instructional time, yes. But I would remind everyone that we're still above what the state requirement is for minutes required in a year.
I get that, but I also am concerned about we are not on grade level or performing below some of the standards. Like, how are we going to close those gaps when we are shortening instructional time? Like, certain grades, like fourth grades, the fifth grades that we know are struggling and instructions being decreased, how are we closing those gaps? Even though, like, we might have the minutes or we might have the days, but the gap.
Right. So, I mean, I think you have to look at the school day as a whole. And, you know, like right now, I think in some elementary buildings, we have a 90-minute math block. Is that correct? You know, so I don't know of a lot of schools that have a 90-minute math block per se. You know, so you have to look at your schedules individually and say, this is the start time, this is the stop time. You know, how can we configure our day to meet the needs that we have? And we haven't done that work legitimately, because we're not going to dive in there until, like, we're given some direction to do that. You know, so, you know, I would say every minute that, you know, the number of minutes that a kid is sitting in a desk is not necessarily an expression of the learning that happens to them. And I would point again back to, you know, our which I hope will be approved comprehensive plan talks about our mission being designing, engaging, and intellectually demanding work. And in order to do that, teachers need time and they need to be able to collaborate with one another. So, you know, I would say an argument is the thing that makes the biggest difference is not the number of minutes that a kid is sitting at a desk, it's the tasks that are put in front of them. And if we can improve and get those tasks to meet that standard of being engaging and intellectually demanding, then I think we're ahead of the game. Which is why I believe the state was willing to reduce those requirements between 180 days and those minutes, which every school district is over.
Is part of what you're saying is that the additional prep time might improve the learning experience, even if the minutes in the seats goes down?
So, you know, I think one of the things I hear from teachers a lot, and I think Mrs. Donat Dr. Donat also, is time. You know, the greatest resource that a teacher has is time. Time to prep, time to plan, time to collaborate, time to talk about students. Now, so in every elementary school, you know, we have MTSS teams that meet to talk about kids. They look at their data. You know, however, their time to be able to do that is limited. We're giving them the opportunity to have more of that time, which is less of a burden on our teachers, and hopefully gives us, you know, a better understanding of what each kid's need is. And then it's just configuring the day to meet those needs. Again, I believe it's a solvable problem when we open ourselves up to possibilities and use time as effectively and efficiently as we can. So, you know, I can't sit here and tell you, like, here's what this particular building schedule looks like. We have to sit down and prioritize, because, again, time is the only thing that a school district has complete control over. What happens from bell to bell, we can configure any way we want. And if we want to prioritize remediation time, then let's build a schedule that does that.
So this would give a bell and a bell, a beginning and an end. But if we approve this, the assumption is that in each building and at each level, there may be some reconfiguring of schedules to deal with some of the issues that have come up, maybe some of the ones that Ms. Lawrence mentioned.
Yeah, we may have to think about things differently. I mean, like right now, like I understand I taught AP classes. They're great when they're year long. You know, but we currently have them in, I think, every block. You know, so we're running a traditional high school schedule and a block schedule simultaneously. Okay, so could we look at that time differently? Could we look at what those periods look like? Sure. I don't have those answers right in front of me. You know, I have a general sense of, will the schedule work? And I believe we've shown that it can. But But again, if approved, then it's going back to the building with the administrations and the teachers saying, what are our priorities during the day? Let's build a schedule that reflects those.
So what is it that gets better? Is it just the test scores that go up? Is that what makes the big difference? And I mean that sincerely. I don't know because
there are lots of benefits. I mean, test scores would go up, emotional well-being goes up, mental health goes up, fewer car crashes because you don't have tired students driving in the mornings. There's a load of benefits.
Where do we see these benefits, like locally? Like we hear like on the West Coast, California, but like where in PA, like have we seen these tangible changes of even a 20-minute flip? I mean, clearly Shippensburg is not ready for the full flip. Like, what is the change? What is the benefits? Like, where have we seen the benefits of disrupting?
So I would say, Ms. Everly, that we give the Youth Truth Survey every year, and you know, part of those surveys talk about how kids feel about school, and how they feel about a lot of things associated with school. You know, so I think we're uniquely positioned to be able to use that to measure how our kids feel about school. Is it better that I get more sleep? So, and again, I mean, I want to be clear. This is a board decision, okay? And so, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I've put forth the best faith effort that I can within the constraints that I've had, which are many. You know, so if there's not support for it at the board level, so be it. We'll just move on. But you know, I don't want to get into personally having to defend this. You know, the science on it is to your point, Ms. Everly, clear. There's not one bit of evidence that says starting schools later is bad for kids. It's all on the good side. So if we can either follow that science or not. And, you know, so, and I'm not promising a rose garden that suddenly, you know, we're 90% on everything, and everything's, you know, a rose garden. But, you know, the research is there. So, you know, if we don't want change, then we don't want change. Let's, you know, vote on it, vote it down, table it, and move on. You know, because it's a tremendous amount of work to make 3 different schedules and get all the feedback that we put onto this to get where we are. You know, so at the end of the day, you know, if there's not support, so be it. You know, it is what it is.
And I would say too, the science is there. I agree. But that doesn't diminish that there would be some pain with the change, and I understand that. And I you know, change is hard. It would be difficult. There would be logistic difficulties. For the last however many years, parents and families have planned their work and their schedules around a certain schedule of the school district. And if we change, even if our motives are good, it would still be difficult. Even if everybody was on board, there would still be some pain in making a change, because change is always difficult.
And I would echo that and say there are unknowns that we don't know. You know, transportation is one of them. We don't know until we have to you know, figure it out. You know, so that could be another reason not to do it.
For me, I'm not voting for it. Point blank, I'm just not voting for it. I have my people in the community talking to me. I've talked to teachers. That's what I got to go by. Those are people voted for me, and I haven't heard anybody come to me and say, I haven't seen no big crowd of teachers out there hollering for it. So for me, it's a no. So if you take the eliminate and guess or whatever, I'm just no.
I mean, I would say, you know, if that's what the majority of the, you know, I would recommend a vote to table it, and then I don't have to deal with this anymore, and I can work on other stuff.
I mean, it's
a motion to table it.
Well, we're not voting on it tonight. It's on the discussion.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't
do it tonight.
I don't see any problem with keeping it and waiting for it to be on the action agenda the next board meeting.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, in listening to a lot of these comments, I mean, I don't know. Backing up to what I had said earlier, I guess one thing that I hadn't considered is, though the instructional day is shortening, the work day for our teachers is not shortening, correct?
That's correct, Dr. Coates.
So that does, and I get, like, I mean, so much of teacher prep happens outside of school, whatever, but that's all individual. And having, like, baked in time to work with your colleagues on how to deliver content, how to run exercises, how to do whatever you're doing, like, I get the value in that. That's tremendously valuable, especially with the lofty goals that we have for our students. And I can see some real value in that, even if the time that a student is in a classroom shortens a little. Because, I mean, just because you're in a classroom for 40 minutes doesn't mean you learned, 10% more than being in there for 36 minutes, right? I mean, it matters what you do with that time. And if we are creating a structure, not just saying do it, but creating a structure that allows teachers to be able to do more with that time that they're with students, I mean, that could potentially benefit our students a great deal.
Any further discussion? Citizens' comments regarding non-agenda items. I see one. Is there any others in the community? So, Tricia, you're up. So just make sure you identify yourself, Borough Township, all comments to the board as a whole, and make sure they are in the form of a statement. Questions will be taken under advisement. You'll be allowed 3 minutes for your comments. Comments relative to private student matters or personal issues should be directed to the appropriate school authority outside of this meeting.
My name is Tricia Macheski from Shippensburg Township in Cumberland County, the mother of Brady and Levi, student 3703. This is a follow-up to my email. Levi was a happy, healthy 13-year-old boy who loved Christ and loved his life. His life was ended by predators the day before school started in August. Levi was the victim of a crime. He did not do anything wrong. He was preyed upon, blackmailed, and extorted. He was a child. Predators prey on their innocence, immaturity, and lack of knowledge. He didn't have the tools to fight this type of evil. He didn't even know it existed. He was taught the basics. Don't talk to people you don't know. Don't send information you wouldn't send to Nana. What was done to him was a crime. His death was ruled a homicide because he was an intelligent, caring, confident, spirited, talented, curious child. He was not mentally unwell. Quite the opposite. He couldn't wait to be back in 8th grade at the middle school. He had his first day of school outfit laying out, his Chromebook charging, and his pencils sharpened in his backpack. I'm just learning. I know a lot more than I ever wanted to know about the dangers of the internet. Predators go where kids go. They're intentional and they're smart. This is not a prevention operation. The internet has changed what it means to be a kid. Children use social and gaming apps, whether they're in school or out of it. If a child uses two-way technology, they're not protected. They're not safe. However, you can educate them and prepare them. Apps like TikTok, Roblox, Discord, Instagram, Snapchat, predators are there. I didn't know. The first time I heard the word sextortion was from a police officer 5 days after my son's tragic death. Keeping the ugly in the darkness from children is impossible. It's in their hands. The stigma surrounding this type of crime prevents people from speaking. Levi's gone, so here I am. I'm asking you to teach parents, faculty, and children what my family didn't know, what could have saved my son, and what can save someone else. Awareness is the key. There is an urgent need to acknowledge the toxic and very dangerous environment our children are facing due to the digital age. Our children are growing up in a world full of pressure, exposure, and social influence. We must have open and honest dialogue about the danger. We have to teach the red flags. We can stop the crisis by engaging children in meaningful conversations and giving them tools to fight the evil. Please, please educate and empower and prepare our children immediately. Optional sessions for your staff and talking with students next year is not okay.
Thank you. Board comments.
Thanks. So just to jump back to a question that Fred had asked earlier about whether another survey had gone out or not, and take it for what it is. But I did one on my school board page, and there was 189 replies. 77% don't support it, 13% support it, and 8% needed more information. So take that for what it is. So earlier I recommended about establishing an ad hoc committee as previously discussed for mental health. This very topic is something we talk a lot about in my household, as I am somebody that from a very young age has struggled daily with these demons. I have an open dialogue with my children so they know that if they feel they are struggling, that they know they always have someone to turn to. Priority in mental health is not just something that I like to talk about, it is a conversation I live every day of my life. I have found that you can learn a lot from talking to our teens whenever you ask them and you listen. So I asked mine that are sitting here earlier, I asked them when they got home today, we had about a 10-minute conversation, and I said, as a student, what do you think the district could do to help students be more aware of risk factors, causes, and resources for mental health? They weren't supposed to be here because they were a pep band, but they got done early. So this was their responses, because I really feel it's important to hear what a teen thinks about this conversation. A question, is PBS really working, and how is it measured? Has it made an impact in the way that we hoped it would? So that was a question. They recommended surveys of students, parents, and teachers to ask for ideas. People can be creative when it isn't their job. Quarterly check-ins face-to-face, not a survey. It is really easy to lie on a survey about how you were feeling. This goes for our teachers as well, as they are also suffering from mental health concerns. Without our teachers being okay mentally, our kids are doomed. Allow counselors to do their jobs. Isaac, who is a senior, has never had one-on-one time with a counselor in 4 years of being in the high school. My oldest son, who is 25, was in the same room at the same time, and he as well, not once in his high school experience, had a conversation one-on-one with a counselor. That tells me a lot. The only time that we've ever had a meeting with a counselor is when I scheduled it to talk about college stuff. Less focus on career readiness. And I know that is going to come as a shock, but if our students' basic needs are not met, both physically and mentally, career readiness doesn't really matter. Now we know there are state requirements in play, but again, how can we get creative to get counselors or mentors in front of our students? They recommended establishing a mentorship, kind of similar to a big brother and big sister, or some type of buddy system, some type of program in the district. And Lily brought this up, and I thought it was a great suggestion, and she said, our students will always remember their favorite, most inspirational teachers. And so how can you incorporate that into the lives of our children, that, it's really hard to open up to someone you don't know, but that teacher that's made an impact in your career as a student, you'd probably be more likely to listen, or they would be more likely to listen to you, and vice versa. prioritize it on the website, make it relevant and easy to find, and assemblies by grade level. Each grade has its own stressors. For freshmen, they're finding a new normal, new routine, new workload, and lots of new pressures. The same can be said for a senior who is getting ready to graduate. Do they know what to expect when they leave for college? Do they know about all of the things that they may run into on a campus, like being slipped drugs in a drink, sexual assault, pressure to do drugs, balancing the pressure of the new workload, and not abusing drugs to stay awake? More outside time. Yes, it is cold, but when have we ever let cold air stop us from some healthy vitamin D? Mental Health Matters Club to help reduce the stigma of mental health among peer groups and adults, and also join that with fundraising for that cause. Kids love to connect with causes when it matters to them. Again, this was from a 10-minute conversation with a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old whose eyes are a lot different than ours. They live this every day amongst their peers. Imagine if you brought in more teenagers to see how we could solve this problem together.
Thank you, Mrs. Wolfinger. Board comments. Mr. Noggle.
First of all, I'd like to thank Mrs. Chowski. I apologize if I got that wrong.
Just say Mac.
For coming. That's like, I can't imagine, but thank you. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is not near as important, but I got a phone call from the News Chronicle and Miss Kim Spencer. And, we want our kids to be noticed in the newspaper and do well. And Kim's struggling to get information, according to her, from our athletic department. She would like to have the district give names, rosters, scores. She wants to put them in the newspaper. She just needs a little bit of help from us to try to accomplish that. So I'm asking that we try to get that done, and that was a request from her.
Dr. Lyman?
I would just echo what Kirk said. Thanks, Tricia. Takes a lot of bravery. And then I've said enough tonight. So.
Mr. Scott?
First, I don't know what it feels like to go what you've gone through, but as a school board, we need to do more. Bullying is going on in the school district, and we've been talking about it for years, and our administrators can only do so much. But now we have an SOO, school resource officers. These kind of issues should be under their control. They should be teaching in classes to our students on a regular basis about the cyberbullying and the regular bullying, and the students will have somebody to go to. We got these people coming in, and I think that's a good step forward to maybe stopping this. But I've been hearing about bullying, cyberbullying, when I was a police officer for the last 15 years. Even when the old heavy had before he had laptops, so with cell phones and everything. So I think there. But Superintendent, I'd like to have Kirk come up to this thing. I guess I have some questions I'd like to ask. So could I get Kurt?
Who?
Kurt, the director, maintenance director.
Curtis.
Curtis. I have questions. That's all.
Sure.
Okay. I think this one here I talked to you about, getting the estimates.
Yeah.
All right. Can the facilities? You saw that I wasn't here to see the diagram the kids had for the buildings and everything. Are you capable of going out and getting those estimates from different building companies? They're free, aren't they? As far as I know.
No, not all of them.
Would they get a material cost?
Not all of them will do them for free.
Yeah, but there are some.
There are some that will do them for free.
Free. Because
Typically, and again, past experience would be those are not people I would be willing to work with.
But
and I'll say you get what you pay for.
Yeah, like Myers, Lumber, Lowe's, those people do.
They're going to give material costs. We don't have a design.
I thought that was
It's very high level. It's 30,000 foot. To do actual architectural, to do block count, to do plumbing, all that would have to actually be a true architectural civil drawing before it can be priced out.
But we can't get the donations till we get that done. So
That's correct.
Correct.
And we would have to get board approval to spend the money to get those architectural drawings completed.
all right, is that a consideration that we as a board should take to get them? Because talking to Ms. Fink, the people that are going to donate are getting frustrated. It seems like this ball is not moving anywhere. So I don't know.
It would have to come out of the facilities committee,
Yes, okay.
and that is on the next facilities committee agenda.
To do that, to get that information done?
Correct.
I wasn't at the last one, that's what I was
It
wondering.
was canceled due to weather.
Yeah, but okay.
But the next one on the, whatever the next meeting is, next Thursday.
All right, thank you. The stadium lights, hold on, I ain't through with you yet. The must go with the lighting. Can we get a date from them when the last date we can order the lighting, so before football season?
They have told me that they will hold the price, but we have not.
I understand.
I'm getting.
I understand. Everybody else is mixing. When it would be the last date? Is it May 14th that we can't? We
Well, I think the last quote was 12 to 14 weeks
for them to do it.
for them from order placement to installation.
So backpedaling. So we got at least till June or July.
I would say I wouldn't go any later than say the middle of May.
Hey, okay.
To be safe.
All right, thank you very much. Hold on, I'm still going on. The borough is ever going to stop? Is the borough ever going to stop new requirements for the stadium on the district superintendent?
Fred, I'm not the guy to ask that question, answer that question. I know that we're in a process right now. Our TPD, the traffic study company, is returning a resubmittal based on HRG's, the borough's engineers, their comments on the traffic study. So that's about 2 weeks out before they'll be able to get that back to them. And then from there, we'll have to see what the borough says.
That's what I keep saying. We paid $23,000.
It wasn't, I don't think 23.
212s.
It was 12-ish.
For each time, right?
I don't have a total number.
I believe so. It's 12 each time. I'll be willing to bet.
We approved what we approved.
Yes,
is
what we approved. Yeah, understand. But anyway, we did it, and we paid that $23,000 for 2 traffic studies. The traffic study came back with the information that K&W had already told us we were sufficient in, correct?
That was their, yes.
But we paid anyway $23,000 to the borough to have the borough satisfied for 2 traffic studies. Now we got the traffic study. The traffic studies agreed with us. Everything else, now they want us to have, now they're saying that we excess parking, correct?
So they're saying that
we
we've
need
not met their variances, their requirements for parking during
borough requirements. We could do that. We could go through this and have to pay another $100,000, $200,000 for a parking lot, correct?
Well, Fred, I mean, again, like,
I'm not blaming you.
I understand it's hard to know without the back and forth and what their response is to our resubmittal. There were some outs in their comments in regard to parking and on grass and potentially other lots. So I mean, there's progress on that end into answering their questions and getting a firm number from them about where we can park and what we can count for parking.
That grass belongs to the Shippensburg Area School District, our taxpayers. What in the world do they care? If we damage it, we repair it. Why do they have to have a say in what we use? We got to mark off spaces. I go to Northern. I go to Northern. I go to Greencastle. I go to James Buchanan. I go to other schools. They all use grassy areas as excess parking, even Chambersburg. So why are we being held to these restrictions? We never know. It's like a ball keeps rolling.
So they are the ones that issue the permits and approvals.
And I agree with that.
I mean, Fred, to your point, I mean, those might be some great questions to ask them at their meetings, because I think they're valid points.
For me, I'm tired of asking them. I'm ready to go to court. It's not going to cost me $100,000 to go to Franklin County Court and let a judge make a determination. This is what you need to play football here at Shippensburg School District. I am never going to get a straight answer from Shippensburg Borough. We haven't over 2 years. We've gone back and forth. I want to go to court and get a definite answer. Then we know where we stand. And on HRG, that's the borough's
Engineer.
Who pays for them?
Borough.
Borough does pay. We don't pay the borough for them doing it.
I mean, there are fees, Fred.
Who?
When we submit things, we have to pay fees. You know that.
But are we paying our HR? I want to know.
We're not paying HR directly.
But are they getting money out of this from us? I don't care about the borough. I mean, Shippensburg School District.
HRG
Yes.
from the, not that I'm aware of, Fred.
Would somebody please check?
Check on it.
Thank you very much. Okay. And I guess you and Superintendent, in 2023, we decided not to build a new gymnasium. We also asked about, the board at the time, asked about what would it cost to remodel the high school gymnasium, tear the ceiling tiles down, paint it, putting up baskets, and things like that. Do you know where that estimate is at?
The ceiling is actually part of the middle school, high school renovation.
So it's going to be done?
So that will be done.
What does that mean?
The ceiling actually gets removed
Mm-hmm.
because of the HVAC ducts that are getting replaced. Then there's a new impact ceiling that will be placed on the high school gymnasium. That will be done this summer.
Do we need to put a new ceiling up?
It has to be torn down to replace the ductwork.
All right, so
it's kind of out of necessity. And then we're going to get additional lighting, new ceiling because of it. We have quotes out to, one of the requests was see if we could rotate the side baskets.
Yes.
We have quotes out. We're having difficulty finding people who are willing to do that. It would be great if we could do that to coordinate that as the roof is coming down. I'm continue working on it until we can find somebody.
I appreciate you letting me know, because we are the only school district in Perry County, Franklin County, Cumberland County, Dauphin County, and Bedford County that has 2 baskets for a high school gym. Everybody got 4 to 6. Even church
We have 6.
Where's that?
They come down. They're in, they're in parallel with the existing main court.
But you can't use them.
You can't use them because you really need to swing them 90 degrees so that you can play half court side to side.
So
basically have 2 complete courts.
But not functional. We have them, but we're not.
They're okay for practice. You couldn't do them for, say, tournament games or any other thing other than practice.
I don't want to belabor this part, but it's just been bothering me for quite a while. I'm going to get it out. The high school coaches have been complaining about this for years, about the lack of basketball. But you are working on it.
You're working on it.
That's what I need to know, and that's what they need to know, that you are working on it. Thank you. I'm sorry to take up all your time, but it's questions I had.
Mr. Carey.
It's always tough to follow Fred. Life is about perspective. You sit here and, you talk about dates and school start times and all that, and then you get hit with the dose of reality. Thank you very much. Is it Tricia and Becky? Mental health issues, kids' lives. Our kids' lives are always going to be and should be their safety and adjustments, mental health adjustments, whatever it is. That should always be in the forefront of our thoughts, and we always get sidetracked with so many other things. So, thank you very much.
Dr. Goetz.
No comments.
Mr. Donovan.
I just second everybody. Thank you for coming and speaking tonight.
Mr. Bard's still out there.
I just want to thank the board for their contribution to, healthy discussions and voicing where they stand and transparency. It's important, discussion before, we would vote on some of these items at the next board meeting, but it is important just to kind of put it out there of, your thoughts and why you may vote the way you vote. But I definitely appreciate healthy dialogue. Mr. August.
Yeah, I just, want to thank Mrs. Macheski for coming in and sharing that. It's never easy. Just to kind of give a broad picture of some of the things that we're working on. In January 28th, the administrative team met with the FBI and discussed and heard their presentation on sexploitation. they're coming back this Friday at the unconference to do 5 sessions, but that's not the end-all be-all of the training that we'll give to our staff. They'll be coming back in June to do it for the entire faculty. And just today, I confirmed that on March 18th, they will come in. They're doing an evening session for parents in the community to your point, to let parents know what dangers exist out there. And I would invite you, Mrs. Macheski, to be at any one of those things. You're certainly welcome to be there and welcome to participate at a level that you're comfortable with. Okay? And we will absolutely get in front of kids the information that they need.
Will we be advertising that event?
Absolutely. Again, I just confirmed it today.
Okay. Thank you. Information date savers, the 13th, Transportation Committee meeting, February 20th, Facilities, the 24th, Budget and Finance, the 25th, Community Outreach. This Friday, there is no school for students. It's an in-service day, and Monday, the 17th, is President's Day, and no school. The district is closed. Meeting's adjourned.